Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back with you again here at the Disney World Dolphin and Swans and Dolphins Resort here in beautiful Orlando, Florida. Anthology Together 2022. This is the second year running we've been here. First year we interviewed 17 people, more than 17 people, but 17 episodes. This year I think we're on what, Elvin, like 13 or 12, 30, somewhere around there. We have a panel of folks in front of us today, 3 people from an amazing university that you're going to hear about in a minute. I do want to remind you all a little bit of self-plugging here. To pick up, it's available for pre-order. commencementthebook.com is the website. We're taking all of these interviews we've done, 160 college and university presidents. We're taking over 100 of those. We're coming up with common themes, and we are writing a book called Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, that will be available soon on Amazon and anywhere you pick up your books about higher education, which if you work in higher ed, you should probably read this book. If you don't, you should probably read it anyway because, well, it's going to be good. With that said, let me bring in my guests. Here they come. I'm going to introduce them one at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, first I have Matt Burns. He's Senior Associate Director for Young Alumni and Student Engagement at Fordham University. What's up, Matt? How are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thanks so much for having us here.
And it's my pleasure to host you guys. Now, I hear you're all podcasters or have something to do with podcasting, but let me bring in your compadres here. I'm going to bring in Laura next. Here she comes. She is Laura Paone. Paone?
Yes, that's
right?
correct.
All right. Assistant Director for Young Alumni and Student Engagement. Whew, you guys got long titles. And here comes our last one. Here she comes. She's Taylor Palmer. She's Assistant Director of Unions and Affinity Chapter Programs at Fordham University.
Yep.
Lots of Fordham University happening today. What's up, guys? How are you?
I'm great.
We're great. Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So we're going to do this. Let's level set for us. Fordham University. Let's just assume somebody's listening to this podcast and has not heard of Fordham University. Where are you? What do you do? And how do you do it? Whoever wants to take it.
Well, let me just start by saying in certain parts of the country, and we say, we work at Fordham, we hear, Florida? No. So number one, we are based in New York City. We are the Jesuit University of New York with 3 campuses. Our original one situated right in the heart of the Bronx. Our other one where we actually work on the Manhattan campus at West 60th and 9th, sorry. And then a campus up in Westchester. So it's about 15,000 students, about 9,000 of them are undergrads.
Amazing.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And, there's, 3-4 undergraduate schools and then, 6 grad professionals. So we're decently, middle-sized university in, what we think is the best city in the world.
And we're also all Fordham alumni as well.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Taylor
interesting.
and I went to the Lincoln Center campus and Matt went to Rose Hill.
The Superior campus.
Rose Hills, we call that Bronx.
It's kind of like when they get their hooks in you at Fordham.
Got him.
And then they keep you forever.
Yeah.
And my co-founder here, Elvin Freitas, also is from New York City.
Oh.
He says it's the second best city in the world.
What's the first?
Yeah, what's the first, Elvin? Oh, okay. We're putting him on the spot. That's fine.
It's just so cheesy.
Elvin, well, that's why we keep you off the mic. He does the producing. I do the hosting. Yes, and we're in our lanes, as we say. So what do you guys do? Degree programs, bachelor's, master's, doctoral? Are you full range of degrees, certificates, a lot of work to do, and you guys are working with alumni and you're engaging students. Talk about that split. What does it mean for those of you working? Because are you doing the same thing with alumni? You're doing something different. We'll get to you in a second. But young alumni, what does that mean to cultivate this young alumni group and student engagement is kind of the other piece. Are they separate? Are they together? Talk about that a little bit.
It's a life cycle. And Laura, feel free to jump in and anything you want to say here, but there's a reason why the 3 of us work so closely together, and maybe it's not obvious from our titles, but there are 200,000 living Fordham alumni.
Wow.
And if we start trying to connect with them the day after they graduate, we've already lost. So we try to do as much as we can to map out those touch points when folks are admitted, while they're there on campus, and then when they ultimately flip and become what we call young alumni. And there's a lot of terms for that, other schools. So just, for reference, that for us is graduates of the last decade. Yeah.
That's good insight. Thank you.
And we probably work primarily with the undergraduate population.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Laura and I have very similar titles there, but that's because we see those worlds as really kind of overlapping. I don't know if you want to add anything about.
Yeah, and on a more granular level, what we do on a daily basis is we meet with student organizations to let them know about what alumni relations is, who we are. So when they graduate, it's not like we're random people reaching out for money. That's our colleagues, though. And we're not random people at events. They have our faces. They know how we can help them as students now as well with the alumni directory, connecting them to alumni. And then we also have a presence during senior week, which is the week leading up to commencement. So we host events during that as well. So we meet with students throughout the year, and then in addition to graduation. So we're friendly faces to the Fordham
You
community.
guys are friendly faces. Now, I interview a lot of people that have something to do with fundraising and advancement and so on. Nobody's said it quite like you did, where this cultivation begins as students, right? Maybe they don't have any money, but they will in the future.
Let's hope.
So you have to have them understand what giving back means, how it affects future students, why it's important, because there are, as they gain dollars, as they gain
money.
See, I've got a button for everything. There are a lot of people that are going to come and ask for donations, right? Health organizations. I mean, there's just a lot of giving. Red Cross. I mean, there's a million ways to give. You have to put Fordham at the front, right?
Yeah.
Is that this? So the cultivation begins as students.
It starts with an A word, and that's where I want to flip it over to Taylor, and that's affinity. That's a big part of why Taylor.
This was my big question: was what does this mean?
Of course. And that's a part of what's great about working with Matt and Laura is I get to have those student connections and educate them as much as we do on what alumni relations is, but also what these options are once they graduate. And that's what these affinity chapters are. Essentially, they're alumni versions of these student groups that they're already invested in. So they're alumni chapters based on interest and identity, and they're different ways that they can interact with the university once they graduate. A lot of times we do focus on the philanthropic angle of how they can give back, but there are so many different ways that alumni can kind of contribute to Fordham once they graduate. And one way is by volunteering their time and kind of getting to be a part of these alumni chapters that maybe you were a part of student government. And so now you're getting together with all of these alumni that you had fun with while you were in student government, and you can fundraise for the current student government, but you can also just get together and network and share about your careers, where you've grown, and help contribute to your fellow student government alums and kind of continue the Fordham legacy.
And that's really, I think, a key thing to add there is that we're helping to facilitate those connections between the current student clubs and organizations and those alumni. One thing, college students get really fired up about changing things on campus. That's why we love them. But there's only so much change you can make happen.
So well said.
Fire.
Yeah. So when you say, let me see if I can understand this. So you have a student group, a student organization of some kind while they're in school. And the affinity piece is they continue on this student group with others who've been part of the student group beyond graduation and into other programs or their jobs or whatever, but they maintain the connection to the university through the affinity group.
Exactly. And also it's a way, I think, we're a mid-size, university, but there are a lot of really big universities where if you're just trying to engage alumni by saying, oh, you had a nice time, come back, that's kind of a really vague, big picture. So one of the things affinity chapters do is kind of hone down that interaction. So we see that you enjoyed music while you were in school. We're now going to show you that there's a community of alumni who are also part of the music program at Fordham.
And do you run reunion events then to bring them back, and these become fundraising events?
There is a fundraising component, yes.
Wonderful.
I love it. Okay, so you guys are here. You're at this conference. Tell me, so far, we're in day 3, 2.5. No, 3. We're in day 3. Sorry, I lose track of my days. We're in day 3. How has it gone for you so far? What are the insights that you've gathered? Is there anything that stood out? And I throw this open because I want you to argue with each other and who's going to get the mic time here. So,
No, it's been really fun. We got to present on day 1, which was really nice.
That's amazing.
So we got to kind of get that out of the way. So the nerves were gone, and I think that allowed us to kind of really engage with some of the sessions, over the next couple of days without kind of the cloud of fear that happens. I think personally, what I'm really excited about, we do a lot of like the back end stuff with Encompass. So learning a lot about kind of role basing, which is how to get your alumni interacting with pages in a way that is specific to them. That's something that we've had a couple sessions with, learned a lot from Syracuse University, and I think we're excited to bring back to Fordham.
I really enjoyed the accessibility presentation I went to yesterday, because I feel like a lot of times that's something that we think about. We don't think about it enough, or we don't think about, there's certain things that we just kind of maybe miss or don't consider in ways that we could. So I got some tips that I want to bring back to Fordham next week or in the time to come.
better.
I like it.
Yeah, and I generally enjoy picking up those tips and tricks kind of along the way. Working with technology, the fancy word people use, human-centered design, like we're all just trying to make processes and systems that make sense to our simple human brains here. So it's been really interesting to hear how people have taken, their complex tools and said, this is how I'm going to present it to alumni to make them actually engage with us in the way we want them to. So it's been really neat to see the ways other folks do that.
Interesting stuff. And the accessibility actually came up yesterday. We interviewed somebody from Wichita State University, was talking about accessibility. Actually, I think she might have been one of the presenters, and that exact thing came up. We don't think about it enough. There's maybe when we think about it, but just because maybe there's not enough people in this group, we just pass by it, and accessibility is becoming more and more important.
There's just so much on our plates to begin with that there's not like a dedicated person, at least on our team, to do accessibility or to think about that. So it's just something we kind of think about in passing, but I feel like we need to dedicate more time to that.
Well, it's also about the accessibility to the accessibility resources.
Yeah. Right.
I think sometimes those are hidden because people don't have time to spend on them. So it's almost like you need to find the accessible resources to be able to implement them, which can be difficult.
Nailed it.
You guys have brought up a lot of things, and it sounds very complicated. Alumni, 200,000 alumni, young alumni. You have events, you have reunions, the affinity chapters. You probably have lots of student clubs of those 15,000 students, and engagement and retention and all these things coming together. How are you keeping track of all of this?
Well, we just don't.
Yeah. Yes.
We never sleep.
A lot of Post-it notes.
A lot of late nights.
Cheers.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
head nods.
Yeah, there's a lot of different tools, that kind of make up the environment the ecosystem we kind of work in. But I mean, so Forever Fordham, our alumni website and portal, which is powered by Anthologies and Compass, is huge for us. That's where we're hosting information about all of these. And so a big part of our job, even though we're not developers or web designers, is figuring out how to collect everything we just explained to you and put it on a web page. You're going to interact with it, quickly and not get lost clicking through links.
Lost point. It's funny because we just interviewed somebody this morning that is also working in student engagement and fundraising. And she's like, I'm a marketer too. I mean, you have to be a marketer. You have a marketer's brain. Most people think that when you're in advancement, you're fundraising, you're just going to go to this meeting and ask. No, it's email nurturing. It's email campaigns. It's how many times you have to get this message out. You guys are marketers and fundraiser bodies.
Yeah,
right?
I often think about what would make me open this email. What subject line would I see that would make me open it? Matt and I always talk about where's it coming from?
Yeah,
what event would I want to attend? Don't plan an event that you wouldn't want to attend yourself. So I put myself in a student's shoes often because I like to think I'm not that much older than a student. But
every day is passing.
I know. And I'm also, we're still young alumni ourselves. So think about what we would want to attend if we weren't in these positions as well.
It does add some perspective for the three of you to say, we are Fordham graduates. Why would we give? What would make us give? And if this isn't engaging to me, so you have kind of an advantage. I think it's an advantage, but you have that perspective, right? How important is that in your daily activity, in the use of technology, how you use Anthology, how you engage your alumni?
Yeah, it really helps that we're drinking the Kool-Aid. We each have our own affinities. So Taylor and I both sang in the choir when we were students. And, we're talking about, well, where do we actually give back? I can say, yeah, I'm making a gift to the choir fund every year. And so it helps that by nature being alumni, we're actually practicing what we preach when we say, hey, support the student experience. We were those students. We know what it's like.
Well, and we know then when we have our friends, when we send our friends to some of these events and we say, hey, register here, we know that the kind of added button that we have of why don't you donate to the choir is something we fall for. So we're hoping they kind of fall for it too. Mm-hmm. There is that kind of behind the scenes knowledge. We now know that adding these certain tips and tricks through the process kind of engages people in their specific niche even more, which is very nice.
So when you guys leave here today or tomorrow, you're going to go to the event tonight?
Tomorrow.
All right. So you get to go to the good big event and have a little bit
You
of a
can't
party.
miss out on the party.
Yeah. I'm missing out on the party. So is Alvin,
Oh.
unfortunately. So we're going to live through you guys. What makes this a successful conference for you? You came here, the three of you or more?
Just the three of us.
Three of you, but that's still a big investment for Fordham to send three people. Any university sending multiple people out, it's a big investment, right?
Mhm.
So you come back and you what? What do you want to do? Is it an implementation of something that you didn't have? Is it tweaking something that you do have? Is it networking? What makes this a successful conference for each of you? I'd like each of you to answer.
Sure. For me, it's definitely a big part is networking. The anthology solutions, at least in the advancement side where we're working, are very collaborative. So it really, really helps us to see how other schools are handling things and really what questions they're asking, what problems they have.
Yeah.
We're looking at potentially a site redesign for Forever Fordham coming up in whatever the timeline is.
And you're excited about that?
We're very excited.
Yeah.
Like we've been saying, trying to find ways to make it easier to click on things to help
Yeah.
people find the info they need. So success for me anyway is, collecting a lot of info and perspectives from other schools that'll help with that process.
I'm excited to make some more immediate, smaller tweaks to things. Like I said about the accessibility, I learned in the presentation yesterday that PowerPoint does the captions in itself, so you don't need like some fancy software for that. So I feel like we shouldn't be doing presentations to students or to anyone if we're using PowerPoint without those captions in the future. So doing that, doing some other Encompass tricks that we've learned, I feel like doing those right away or in the coming weeks. And then, like Matt said, looking forward to those larger site redesigns and ongoing conversations with the rest of our team.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to kind of reiterate what my colleagues have said, I think it's a lot of, you get kind of the tip of the iceberg, which is fantastic, but then you get to kind of continue those relationships moving forward. So I'm really excited to reach out to some of our educational partners and have larger conversations with how they're leveraging these resources that we all have, that we all use in different ways, and maybe we're missing out on some huge elements that they do very well. So setting up some of those kind of like conversations moving forward and having Zoom meetings and figuring out how to implement those on our end.
I love it. You guys are awesome. You should start a podcast. Or do you have a podcast already?
Is this time for the plug? Yes.
You have a microphone in front of you. No podcaster gets away without plugging their own stuff.
Yeah, wherever you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and search for Fordham Footsteps. It's our story about how alumni find their way from their undergraduate major to their current career, because it's never a straight line.
What's the name of that again?
Attention.
Fordham Footsteps.
See, you like that? You like that? This is my new favorite button.
We're going to get into those.
Attention.
I can hit it all day. So Fordham Footsteps. All right, I love it. Go search it, you guys. Hear all about what's happening at Fordham University. Did you guys have a good podcast experience with us here at EdUp?
We
I had a great time.
5
Did
out of
you have a
5.
good time with us?
I didn't. In fact, I feel like it's too short because we do about 20-minute episodes. We've done it 18 minutes. I feel like I could talk to you guys for 38 minutes or 48 minutes, and it would still be as fun as it is today, right now, right? All right. Well, here we go, ladies and gents. We have Matt, we have Laura, and we have Taylor. And they all work with alumni and student engagement. And I'm not going to go over their very long titles. At Fordham University, you just EdUp'd.